Today on Across the Fence, it's the UK in the USA. We'll visit a leadership workshop in which Vermont's 4-H'ers are hosting students in a PH International Exchange experience. What the students learned about their differences and what they have in common may surprise you. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. Earlier this summer, an international exchange program brought together young adults from the United Kingdom and Vermont. The UK students spent a week in Vermont with a specific focus on studying different models that promote leadership in young people. In just a moment, we'll hear from some of the youngsters involved, but first, we'll meet the adult leaders behind the exchange. Joining me is Lauren Traister, who is the Teen and Leadership Specialist with UVM Extension 4-H. Also here is Hannah Corey. Hannah is the Program Manager for PH International. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
So Hannah, why don't we start off talking a little bit about what PH International is?
Sure. PH International is actually Project Harmony, which many people may have heard of. We're based in Waitsfield, Vermont, but we're an international non-governmental organization. So we have offices in Russia, Ukraine, the Republic of Georgia, and I'm forgetting one. Armenia, sorry. And so our primary focus is to foster civic society development through education or technology or cross-cultural exchange. So we have a lot of programs going on in Eurasia. And then our Vermont office here, we primarily focus on exchange, student exchanges. So we'll be talking today about our UK Young Leaders Exchange that just happened in August. But currently we have a group from Belarus here in Vermont who are studying about corporate social responsibility. And in the past, we've had groups come to learn about entrepreneurism, civic engagement, and things like that.
And so with that overview in mind, what is the UK Young Leaders Program?
The UK Young Leaders Program was funded by the US Embassy in London, the Public Affairs Office there. And the purpose of the program was to select young leaders in the UK who had demonstrated leadership either in their schools or their communities and bring them to the United States to learn more about effective models of leadership and to experience American culture. So we came here to Vermont and Boston and Washington, D.C.
Those are three very different environments.
Yes, we wanted to have both a mix of both urban and rural areas.
And so, Lauren, how did 4-H and PH International connect and make the exchange happen?
Well, you know, it's funny, we live in this small rural environment here in Vermont, and I met Hannah's colleague at an energy fair, and she, you know, like most people, she didn't realize that 4-H is more than just an agricultural program, and I explained to her that, you know, we do a lot with youth leadership development, and, you know, it sort of just sparked that interest of how can the two organizations work together, and it turns out that they were having these UK young leaders come over, and I proposed that we bring the two groups together as a way to not only do some leadership development with both groups, but have that opportunity for a cultural exchange amongst the youth. And so we planned a day in August, and I know we're going to talk about that more.
So Hannah, who participated in the program?
We had 10 young leaders. They were ages 16 to 17, all across the UK. So we had a couple from Northern Ireland. We had some from London and then from other parts of England. And they were all selected by the US Embassy in London based on their commitment to youth leadership. They're all from very diverse backgrounds. We just wanted to give them an opportunity to kind of learn about different like models of leadership by coming to the United States.
And Lauren, why do you think it was important to connect the 4-H teenagers with these other teens?
Well, for several reasons. One, the research shows that cultural intelligence is really important to the development of young people today because of the global economy that we live in. And in 4-H, we really focus on life skill development, looking at social emotional learning, but the research does say that cultural intelligence is starting to become just as important. So knowing that and having this opportunity, you know, we don't have a program in Vermont where we send our our 4-Hers on international exchanges. That does exist within the 4-H world, we just don't participate. And so here was an opportunity that we had foreign students here in Vermont, so let's have them get together and start that exchange now, in the hopes that the 4-H teens, that might be the spark for them to say, hey, when I'm in college, maybe I want to do a semester abroad, or maybe they want to do a semester abroad still in high school. It begins to open up the world to them.
Which is really important, as you mentioned, because it is such a global society.
Yeah, and you know, in Vermont, we tend to be a little sheltered, even from just our own nation. I mean, Vermont is a very different place, and when you live in a rural community, sometimes you think Burlington is beyond your means. And so we need to begin to open up the world to our young people so that they realize that the world exists, whether they want to participate in it or not, and the hopes is they'll begin to connect further outside their own small communities and understand, by making these connections, our world, you know, they can help solve some of the great problems that our world is beginning to face, and a lot of them do have to do with relationship building.
And also too, as you said, maybe spark some interest and say, well, if we don't necessarily have a program set up that will send kids internationally, they may look for those opportunities because they do exist.
Exactly, and as they begin to realize, hey, meeting someone from the UK wasn't as scary as I was. I did have one boy say I was a little scared. I didn't know what to expect, and at the end of the day, he was like, that was fabulous. That was the best thing I have ever done. And so having that, he's now ready for the next step. And so you begin with these small, easy types of cultural exchanges in the hopes that they will take those next steps and maybe go deeper and maybe travel abroad and begin to immerse themselves in the global community that we're all a part of.
Well, we're going to take a moment now to hear from some of the young adults who participated in leadership and cultural exchange. Here's what they had to say.
Talking about what is collaborative leadership and the 7 qualities of a collaborative leader.
It was great being able to interact with the 4-H American teens and seeing their perspective and their way of doing things. The main focus of this morning's sort of session was the difference between collaborative and cooperative leadership and the sort of benefits and disadvantages of both, and when to apply which leadership style and how to basically get the best out of it. So it was really, really interesting. It was really hands-on. So you're really dealing with people within the PH International U-Lead group and the 4-H teens, and seeing just different points of view and meeting new people and finding out about different cultures, whilst also learning things that you can apply to, say, a business setting or political setting. So it's been fantastic. Leadership can be applied in any situation, and it's not always what you think. So it's not rushing in and shouting and trying to get your opinions heard above others. It's listening to everyone and taking everyone's opinion on board and following the times and taking the lead in certain times, and just making sure everyone works together to try and collaborate and get the best result possible. So I think that can be applied to any situation. See, one thing I'd really liked about Vermont, well, apart from the weather, obviously, I'm probably burnt already, but the people are all really friendly and really just nice to get along with. I mean, wherever we've been or wherever we've gone, people have always just been that accepting and happy and bright, and we're not used to that back in Ireland.
Working with kids from a different country and culture was amazing. I learned like how similar our cultures are in some ways and how different, and just how no matter where you are in the world, there are going to be people that are somewhat the same as you. I hope I kind of broke the stereotype of like the American blonde, you know.
Why do you think that's important?
Because not all blondes are really dumb and shallow. Like, there's more to Americans than what is portrayed on TV, I guess.
So it feels like a well-oiled machine. It's true. Who wrote that one?
I've never really met many people from outside of America, so just meeting them, talking to them about their traditions and customs has been a great experience. And then on top of that, we're doing leadership projects, so we're doing some different activities. We did an icebreaker. It was great to get to know everyone, and then it kind of showed our leadership ideas compared to their ideas, and where things that we do are similar compared to things they do. My communication skills in 4-H definitely helped me in a situation like this, talking to different varieties of people from different areas. For example, when we go to show horses in Springfield at the Big E, we're exposed to people from the city that know very little about horses versus the people in Vermont that have some horse knowledge. So I really didn't know what to expect meeting these kids from the UK, and I just was very interested. Meeting them, I was very surprised. A lot of similarity, just different things we do in our free time, favorite foods, things like that. Just a lot of similarities. I was able to communicate with them very easily. I wasn't sure if they'd have an accent, wouldn't be able to stand, but they talk very well. I was able to understand them very easily.
Everyone over here is very nice to each other. So if you walk in the street in London and someone says hello, you'd normally walk past really fast and like hide your phone. Whereas over here, everyone else is saying hi to each other, and it's really nice and different. And I think that's important because most people would assume that English and American culture is very similar because it's both Western, but it's more fun picking up the differences. So we went to the cinema and I found out that Americans put butter on their popcorn, and we don't do that at home, and it's really weird. And I don't really understand it, but it's cool learning different things like that. Yeah. I think in all the other experiences we've been doing, it's more so about individual, like an individual process, being a leader on your own, whereas this one has kind of shown us that it's more important to work together and to be collaborative opposed to getting to an end goal by yourself. It makes more sense to do it with other people. The biggest thing that I've learned is that you don't necessarily need to live in a big city environment to kind of survive, because I've never had to live outside of that environment, and being here and seeing these people that just, the way of life is amazing and so inspiring, whereas like back home, I live in like London, and it's where everything's happening, everything's really fast, and you're always on your way to do something. But over here, it's just, you can kind of pace yourself and enjoy like the scenery and enjoy just chilling out. And I really like that, and definitely will employ that when I get back home. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is like the country, but it's just definitely a simpler and more relaxed way of living that I think is really cool, and I like it.
You know what amazes me about that is that you hear all these comments and then you realize these students only spent a day together.
Yeah, not even a day. I mean, they were with each other for about 3 hours. This particular group of 19 teens immediately bonded, and I don't know if it's because of the icebreakers that we did at the workshop just really got them comfortable, or because the UK teens were here on a mission to meet and learn, and the 4-H teens that I selected to come to the workshop had self-selected by applying to want to be a part of this. So I think everybody came in just really game to learn and meet each other and find out, like, what do you put on your popcorn?
Well, that was so funny.
The UK students thought it was hilarious that Americans say the word awesome all the time.
That's true. The things you don't notice.
Right.
So Lauren, as a facilitator, what do you think was the biggest takeaway message?
Well, I think in terms of the leadership development, what we're really trying to get across to them that the idea of collaboration. Collaboration, when you collaborate more, you get greater results out of that. And I think the teens really got that message, and the hope is they will begin to work with their peers more, and then as they get older, reach out globally. But I think the biggest takeaway from the day was just the idea that there are teens across the pond, at least from the Vermont teens, either direction you go, that are really like me. We might put different things on our popcorn, but we're very similar. And I think that message goes a long way when you start to have problems in the world, that when you can say, I met someone who was really nice, you remember that.
Hannah, what about for you, do you think?
I agree. For the UK young leaders that came, one of the biggest things that they said that they enjoyed the most about the program was the interaction with other teens. And for the 4-H program, they said that immediately they found similarities. They loved talking about schools and comparing different problems that they're facing in their schools. And I was just so pleased and enjoyed watching them connect so quickly. Many of our UK young leaders were from London, a very urban area, but they so quickly found commonalities and similarities with the 4-H youth who are from more rural areas.
And so Hannah, what about PH International? How can people find out more information about that?
You can find us on the web at www.ph-int.org or 802-496-4545. I mean, even though we're an international organization, we are based right here in Vermont in Waitsfield.
And Lauren, how about how Vermonters can learn more about the opportunities or programs?
Yeah, people can contact our main office at 1-800-571-0668 or online to learn more about all the different programs we have. You can go to www.uvm.edu/extension/youth.
I want to thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you.
That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. I'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.